Hello everyone, welcome to our channel. My name is Mark.
And my name is Lisa.
In this episode, we're going to talk about a very real part of everyday life. Something that will help you speak English more naturally. For example, difficulties, stress, and tough decisions.
Exactly. Sometimes life goes smoothly, but sometimes it feels like everything is falling apart. For instance, problems at work, big decisions, or little things that just get on your nerves. It can feel like everything piles up all at once.
Today, by talking about moments like these, we'll teach you natural English expressions. Now let's explain what we'll do in this lesson.
First, you'll listen to a short conversation between two friends, Emma and Josh. They'll use real, everyday English. By the end, you'll learn many useful expressions related to stress, confusion, and making big decisions.
Then, Lisa and I will clearly and slowly explain every important word and expression. We'll talk about their meanings, give simple examples, and share a few personal stories to help you remember them.
Don't worry if you don't understand everything the first time. You can pause the video or rewind it and listen again anytime you want.
So, are you ready to see how Emma and Josh deal with a difficult week?
Let's get into the conversation.
Josh, to be honest, my mind is a total mess today. I'm completely confused. Nothing makes sense to me. It feels like everything is mixed up.
Oh no, Emma, what happened? Something at work?
Yeah, at work too, but really life in general. I'm in a big dilemma right now. I've got 2 job offers. Both are good in their own ways, but I can't decide.
Wow, that's a tough one. What are the jobs like?
One pays really well. It's a big company, the office is beautiful, but the work itself is incredibly boring. Just reports and spreadsheets all day.
Yeah, that doesn't sound very exciting.
Exactly. But the second job is really interesting. Working with people, planning events, sometimes even traveling.
That's definitely a hard choice.
And my current job is driving me crazy. They keep giving me more and more tasks. There's no extra pay and no help. I feel completely stuck.
That's rough. Sounds like your situation is even more serious.
You're right. I'm trying to stay positive. I keep telling myself maybe I'm starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe this tough period will be over soon.
I think it will. You're stronger than you think, Emma. But you need to make a decision. Otherwise, both opportunities might slip away.
That's what I'm afraid of. If I wait too long, I'll lose both jobs and be stuck in this miserable one again. I need to do something.
Then, as a first step, learn more about both companies. Talk to people who work there. Get honest answers. Don't just rely on what they said in the interview.
Great idea. I'll email both companies and maybe talk to someone who actually works there. I want to know what a real workday is like.
Exactly. And also figure out what really matters to you. That way, you'll get your life back on track.
Yeah, I really need to think seriously. More money but boredom, or less money but joy and pride?
That's perfect. Don't rush it. Ask questions and trust yourself. You're smarter and braver than you think, Emma.
Thanks. I really needed to hear that today. Josh, always here for you. That's what friends are for.
Emma. That was such a difficult situation. She was really stressed and had to make a lot of important decisions. It was great listening to Emma's conversation because we heard so many useful expressions in that short dialogue.
Absolutely right. Now, let's take a closer look at some of the words and phrases from the dialogue. Let's start with the first thing Emma said. First, she said, "I'm in a muddle." When you say "in a muddle," it doesn't just mean you're busy. It means your mind is mixed up, your thoughts are scattered, and everything feels confusing.
Yes, it's that feeling when you have so many thoughts and tasks in your head that you can't even tell which one is important anymore.
I remember when I moved to another city last year. Everything was complete chaos. Everything was new. A new house, a new job, a new neighborhood. For weeks, I was totally confused. One day, I went out to buy groceries. But after walking in circles for an hour, I still couldn't find the store. Then I realized I had left all my documents at home. My passport, my ID. It was like my brain just froze for a moment.
Oh, that reminds me of my first teaching job. I used to wake up at 5 a.m., trying to prepare everything, but I always forgot something. One morning, I left home wearing 2 different shoes. My brain was so frozen that my students noticed it before I did.
Yeah, things like that can happen to anyone. The phrase "in a muddle" sounds very natural and friendly. You can easily say, "I'm totally in a muddle. I don't even know where to start," or "She's all muddled up this week. She has 5 things to finish at once."
Exactly. It sounds much nicer than just saying, "I'm confused." This phrase shows that you're tired, but in a way that others can relate to, and maybe even smile about. Poor Emma. She said she's facing a really tough choice. Let's look at this more closely. A dilemma means you're stuck between 2 options, and neither one is easy. It's not that one is good and the other is bad. Both have positive and negative sides. That's why it's so hard to decide.
Absolutely. What's interesting is that a dilemma doesn't have to be about a huge issue. Sometimes it's a life-changing decision, like moving to another country or staying where you are.
True, but big or small, it doesn't matter. Any type of dilemma can cause stress because you're afraid of making the wrong choice. For example, when I graduated from university, I received 2 job offers. One was from a well-known company in London, and the other was from a small company near my home. If I worked near home, I could spend more time with my family. The problem was, no matter which one I chose, I would lose something important.
I completely understand you. When I decided to go abroad to work as a teacher, I faced the same situation. I was very close to my family and friends, and I didn't want to be far away from them. But I also wanted a new adventure. I struggled with this dilemma for weeks. My mind was telling me one thing, but my heart was telling me another.
Exactly. Sometimes your mind wants one thing and your heart wants something else. That's what makes a dilemma so difficult. Because it's not just logic, your feelings get involved too. That's why we say, face a dilemma. Because you're literally standing in front of a difficult choice.
So, if you want to use this expression, you could say, "I'm facing a dilemma," or "He is in a dilemma about what to do next."
Our next expression, Emma said she's in a tight corner. This is a great expression. When we say in a tight corner, it means you don't have many ways out. Imagine being stuck in a narrow space where it's hard to escape.
Exactly. It's not just about feeling uncomfortable. You feel trapped. No matter what you do, the situation is still difficult. When I first started my teaching career, my manager gave me 2 impossible tasks. One had to be done by noon, and the other by the end of the day. It was simply impossible to finish both.
I've been in a similar situation too. Once, I promised to help 2 friends on the same day, but I didn't check my calendar. Later, I found out they both needed my help at the exact same time. Of course, I couldn't be in 2 places at once. I felt completely stuck, like I was in a tight corner.
Exactly. In situations like that, you feel pressure, guilt, and stress all at once. It's definitely not pleasant.
Yes, and that's why this expression is so useful. For example, you could say, "I'm in a tight corner at work because 2 tasks are due today." Or, "He's in a tight spot because he promised too many people."
Sometimes you don't even need to explain everything. Just saying, "I'm in a tight spot," is enough. People immediately understand that you're under pressure and need a bit of support.
Absolutely. When life gets tough, it's a short but very powerful way to ask for understanding. All right, now let's look at 2 expressions used to describe different levels of problems. Slightly annoying and extremely frustrating.
Yes, the first one is slightly annoying. This means something that bothers you a little. It's not a big problem. It might annoy you for a moment, but you quickly forget about it.
Exactly. For example, imagine you spill a drop of coffee on your shirt before going to work. It's not a disaster, just slightly annoying.
Right. Now, let's look at the opposite. Extremely frustrating. This refers to a situation that really tests your patience, something that drives you crazy.
Exactly. This can be something that happens again and again, or a situation that bothers you deeply every time. For example, I used to live in a building where my upstairs neighbor played loud music every night at 1 a.m. At first, it was slightly annoying, but after the third night, it became extremely frustrating. I couldn't sleep, and it really stressed me out.
Yes, sometimes small things can eventually turn into something that drives you completely crazy. Let's talk in detail about a very useful expression. Step aside.
Yes. When we say step aside, it means you stop trying to take control and let someone else take responsibility for a while. It's like being in your own car, but someone else is driving. You're just sitting in the back, watching.
Exactly. And it's not always because of laziness or not caring. Sometimes you simply need a break, or you feel that someone else might be able to handle things better at that moment. And that's completely normal.
I totally agree. A few years ago, I was organizing a big family event. At first, I tried to manage everything myself, the food, decorations, music, even the seating arrangements, but it became so exhausting that I couldn't enjoy any of it. Finally, I said, "Enough. I'm stepping aside." After that, I only helped when someone asked me to. And honestly, the event turned out even better, mainly because I stopped trying to control everything.
So, when you use this expression, it basically means you're letting someone else take the lead for a while, or you're stepping back from managing things to take a break. Now let's look at a very interesting expression. To see a glimmer of hope.
I really love this expression too. It means that you're going through a tough time, but you can start to feel that things are slowly getting better. Hope is still there. It's not completely gone, and you can see with your own eyes that the bad days are coming to an end.
Exactly. It's like walking through a long tunnel. When you see a small light in the distance, you realize the exit is very near. You understand that you won't be stuck there forever. For example, when I was doing my master's degree, I had weeks full of essays, exams, and presentations. I hardly slept and felt completely exhausted. At that time, I thought I wouldn't make it. But by the last days of the semester, I finally saw a glimmer of hope. I realized that the difficulties were ending and the finish line was near.
I completely understand. I was in a similar situation when I was saving money for a trip. I worked 2 jobs for months. In the mornings, I taught classes, and in the evenings, I worked as a waitress. But one day, when I checked my account, I realized I was very close to reaching my goal.
Absolutely. Realizing in time that hardships aren't eternal is a very powerful feeling. You understand that there's an end, and each day brings you a little closer to it.
That's why, when you use this expression, you could say, after months of searching, I finally got a job offer and I can see a glimmer of hope. Or, the house renovation is almost done, and I finally see the light at the end of the tunnel.
It's a very positive way to talk about tough times. It not only motivates you, but also reminds you never to give up, because better days are on the way. But now let's talk about another expression with a slightly deeper meaning. To hit a dead end.
Yes, to hit a dead end means you can no longer move forward. You've reached a point where there are no options left, or there's simply no way out. Imagine walking down a street and suddenly it just ends. There's nowhere to go.
Exactly. If there's no road ahead, you can't do anything more. In that case, you have to stop and change direction.
Once I tried to organize an educational trip for my students. I contacted companies for months and tried everything. But in the end, the visa rules changed. Everything became impossible. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't solve the problem. I had hit a dead end, and eventually the issue was closed.
I've experienced something similar. I started learning programming. At first, I was very enthusiastic. I was creating websites and small apps. But after a few months, I realized this wasn't for me. I lost interest and didn't feel happy anymore. I had hit a dead end, and that's okay. Sometimes you just need to change direction.
Exactly. Hitting a dead end doesn't mean failure. It just shows that this path isn't right for you. When that happens, you need to find another direction. For example, after months of trials, the company realized they had hit a dead end. Sometimes you just need to accept that you've reached this point.
Yes, these steps can feel a little sad, but at the same time, they signal a new beginning. Hitting a dead end means it's time to look for a new path and find new ways forward. Right, now let's look at another useful expression. To get to the root of the problem.
Exactly. To get to the root of the problem means that first you identify the main cause of an issue. You don't just look at the surface. You dig deeper, ask questions, and really find out what's going on.
Absolutely. For example, when there's a problem, you don't just guess, you want to find the truth. I remember once at school, our team's project kept getting low grades. To us, everything seemed fine, but clearly something was off. At first we thought, the teacher is very strict. But then we decided we needed to get to the root of the problem. First, we spoke with the teacher and asked for their opinion. In the end, we realized that we hadn't fully followed the assignment's requirements. We had missed small details while preparing the project. Once we understood this, we made corrections and our results immediately improved.
That's a great example. I had a similar situation once. I was working at a language school. After some time, a few students suddenly stopped coming to classes. At first, we thought maybe they were just being lazy about coming. But the director told us we needed to look deeper into the issue. So we contacted the students and asked why they weren't coming. It turned out the bus schedule had changed, making it hard for them to get to school. After learning this, we organized car sharing to help, and the students started attending classes again. If we had just guessed, we would have misunderstood the problem. But by getting to the root of the issue, we found the real cause.
Exactly. When you use this expression, it means, I'm not just guessing, I want to find the real reason. You're trying to understand the true nature of the situation. Right, let's move on to the last expression of today's lesson. This one is called to grasp something or to fully understand something.
Exactly. To grasp something means to completely understand a topic. Not just a little, but deeply and clearly. This way, you have full control over the subject you're learning.
Yes, that's right. For example, when you start learning something new, at first everything seems confusing. Nothing makes sense at first glance. But after some reading and practice, you grasp it, and suddenly everything starts to make sense.
Exactly. I felt the same way when I was learning to drive. At first, everything seemed overwhelming. The pedals, mirrors, and road signs, managing them all at once felt impossible. But after practicing consistently for a few weeks, everything clicked into place.
That's a perfect example. I had a similar experience when I started teaching English grammar. At first, it was very difficult for me because all the rules, tenses, and exceptions seemed confusing. I memorized rules from the book, but I didn't really understand them. Only when I started teaching real students and answering their questions did I truly grasp the material. That's when everything became clear, and I believed in myself for the first time.
Exactly. But grasping something doesn't happen in a day. Sometimes it takes days, weeks, or even months, and that's completely normal.
You can use this expression in everyday life like this. I'm trying to grasp my new job. Or, I finally grasped English grammar.
Absolutely. When you truly grasp something, you move from confusion to clarity, from doubt to confidence.
And that brings today's lesson to an end. We hope you enjoyed learning these useful expressions. Thank you for being with us. Keep practicing, smile, and continue learning until our next lesson.
By regularly watching this channel, you can improve your English naturally and realistically. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments. See you next time. Goodbye for now.